and welcome to the Big Brother 24 Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and this is the podcast where we talk about everything from the feeds, which includes very little this week. So welcome with me this week to talk through it all, which is
some of it.
A little bit. Is Chantele. How you doing, Chantele?
I'm doing pretty well, and it was just really interesting from when I was asked to do this podcast this week. I was like, oh, it's going to be interesting. Like, I wonder, like, how we're going to be, like, go ranking for the inside and the outside and what's going to happen after. And so I was, like, really excited to be, like, what's going to happen with this twist. And then it's not that at all. So I don't know what we're going to talk about. I'm interested to see what we make of this week. So there's that.
There's that. Also with us this week is Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
There we go. Let's just play the whole song because we have time.
The whole
we
thing.
have time today.
We'll do a recap of Squid Games. Yeah, be good.
Yeah, let's just talk about something else. I was just telling you guys before we got on, like, I have no idea what we're gonna really talk about because we don't really know. I was out of town this weekend, and probably a good weekend to be out of town considering that we don't really have a lot to talk about since there really wasn't that many feeds on at all. So yeah, fun, cool time. I don't know. We're just gonna have to see how this goes. I'll be honest.
Yeah, so I mean, let's set this up here in case you're not aware. The house split into two this week, with one side being inside and the other side being outside. The inside crew is Michael, Brittany, Jasmine, Taylor, and Monty. The outside crew is Terence, Kyle, Alyssa, Turner, and Joseph. Michael was the HOH on the inside. Terence, I guess, is the HOH on the outside. And on the inside, things are pretty simple. Michael is targeting Jasmine. Brittany won the veto, didn't use it. Jasmine is still the target. On the outside, Terence was targeting Joseph. Kyle made a play to out the leftovers to both Alyssa and Terence to guarantee Turner and Joseph on the block, and him and Alyssa remain off the block. It worked. And Terence then also won the veto and was intending to not use it when there was probably a wall yeller, and the wall yeller told him not to trust Kyle. The feeds have been down ever since, and we have reason to believe that based on some speculation, some rumor, that perhaps the veto was in fact used on Turner, and Kyle was nominated in his place. So it will be Kyle against Joseph on eviction night. And we really have absolutely no clue what's going to happen from there. I can only assume that if Kyle's on the block, he's the target. But it also doesn't really make any sense for Terence or Turner to evict Kyle right now. So I'm not entirely sure where it's going to go, why they decided to put Kyle on the block in the first place. Because it's, we don't know what they know or what they believe. And so we're kind of just stuck in this situation where we really don't know much. And also, in addition to not knowing much, because the feeds have been down outside all week long, we've been stuck watching the five inside do nothing for days.
Yeah.
Basically, the feeds have been down for the last 4 days. There's basically been nothing to watch or talk about. The momentum of this season has crashed into the ground and didn't even explode. It just kind of went boop.
Yeah, I don't know why they thought that now was a good time to do this twist. Final five feeds is the most boring time. Final five and beyond really is the most boring feeds. Who cares? And they've now just made two final five houses. We could have had some good drama this week. We could have had, if we had everyone together, but separating it like this just makes it so boring. I feel like this twist could have been an interesting thing to do back in week 1 or like one of the first couple weeks or something like that. Like that could have been interesting. But at this point, it's just not good feeds at all. I mean, and that coupled with the fact that the feeds have been off, it's not any good. So yeah, it's just, what a bad week. It's just been so bad.
I'm going to a little bit defend the twist because prior to us
hear you try, Taran.
Okay. Prior to us learning about the twist, I did say I think there's some promise here.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to hear the details, and I feel like they just bombed every detail, right? Like this twist would be great if the groups were random, and it would be great if one side wasn't stuck outside where there's wall yellers aplenty. Like, I feel like it could work. I do also think probably like a final 12 kind of situation might have been better. 2 sides of 6, perhaps, to give a little more intrigue. Although I don't hate the final 5 one either, because yeah, there's a possibility that we get a boring group. But the benefit of this twist is that if we do get one boring group, there's a decent chance at least that we get a more exciting group on the other side, which is what happened.
Yeah.
But then we couldn't see it because they were outside.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right in the first point too, as well. Like, they should have made it random. Like, I think the schoolyard pick thing was exactly what we told them. Like, that would be bad if they did that, and then they went and did it. It's like, it kind of like eliminates any sort of drama, because they can kind of like cheat the system and be like, oh, okay, well, which is exactly what Michael did. Obviously, they couldn't do it on the other side because of Terence winning, but still, it's like, if it was randomized, it just would have been a lot more exciting, and a lot harder to, I don't know, rig,
Yeah. 100%. Like with the whole twist, like I was a little bit like, okay, this could be all right. Like it could be not too bad, like for the reasons that you stated, Taran. And then we see it's going to be the schoolyard pick, and I just wrote out who Michael, like what was going to happen, and I predicted both teams. It was very easy for me to predict both teams. So obviously it was very easy for them to know exactly what was going to be best for them to do. And so knowing that, it means that the twist wasn't good. It should have been random, because you don't want them to be able to completely get their way of have exactly what they want to be going down this week. But I do find it funny though, that they're probably doing Dire Fest after Fire Fest, and Fire Fest was such a mess that, like, you know what? They got what they wanted. This was them, like,
it's very accurate.
Exactly.
They brought it on themselves for sure. But yeah, I mean, allowing them to pick teams meant that Michael was able to pick his team in such a way that it made for the most straightforward, boring week possible. So we were guaranteed that at least one group was going to be boring. And that's exactly what I said before this twist happened, is that, like, if you allow them to choose, it doesn't completely negate the possibility of having interesting groups, but it significantly decreases the chances of you having more exciting groups. And look at what we got. We got a very boring group on Michael's end because he handpicked them all. And then lo and behold, that's the only one we get to see all week. So it's just such a mess. And it's such a shame, because I do feel like this season has had such a blistering pace, and the momentum has really, it's just been like week after week. Every time we think it's going to start to slow down, it's sped up, and it's been interesting, and it's been fun. And for the momentum to just come, I mean, just like screeching to a halt the last few days. Like, there has been nothing. Some people are talking about, like, oh man, when they get back together, what's going to happen? We're going to find out what happened outside. I'm honestly, like, I'm struggling to care. It's just like, it's the season's over in my head. It ended a few days ago. I tweeted it out. Like, what happened? Where did it go?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, it's been very hard to keep my interest this week, I'll say. And really, it did in the beginning when we were, worried, I guess, about like what's Terence going to do. But now, obviously, that feeds are off and we have no idea what's going on. It's like, I guess I'll just wait till the episode and then, we'll see what happens. And it's just like, it's just so dull. I don't know. It's been hard to care for sure. And yeah, I don't know. It's not good. It has not been a good week. I'll say that.
And especially since like the way I enjoy Big Brother is by watching feeds and like
Mhm.
looking at the update, being on Twitter, like what's going on, like
Yeah.
being part of like that culture. And when they just completely cut it off like that, it's
Mhm.
like, well, this is how I watch the show. So my show's not on anymore. So who cares?
Right.
Okay, I guess there's going to be an episode and I'll care then. But I haven't been as eagerly looking at what was going on because it's like, I doubt that anything's going to change on the bro fest or whatever it's called on the inside. And so it's like, okay, who cares? What's
Right.
happening next, I guess. But
And then I feel like even when we do find out what happened on the outside, like on the episode,
not
it's
gonna be the
not going to
truth.
be what happened
Yeah.
because they can't tell us what happened because, I mean, unless they decide to, which they have in the past, is include like banner planes or whatever, like in the edit.
It's
like
been a
maybe
while,
they would
though.
do something like that. But it's been so long since they've included something like that. And I mean, I feel like they wouldn't want to encourage people to do it more by including it in the episode and making it show known that like, oh, this is what impacted the decision or whatever, because then that would just really make people, want to do it. Although I really don't know how else they're going to edit it if it was the case that the wall yeller actually impacted Terence's decision. Like, how else are they going to explain it? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like because that's the thing is that if they include it in Wednesday night's episode, like I know this might sound weird, but let me tell you, believe me, I've seen them. They're in my mentions. There are plenty of Kyle fans out there. And if they show Kyle getting screwed over by a wall yeller and getting put up on the block and being on the block, and I guarantee you some of them live in LA, and I guarantee you some of them are going to drive over to that wall and they're going to be like, hey, Joseph is working with the people inside. He's in a final five with that. He's coming for you. Like this, it's going to open the floodgates. They can't do it. There's no way.
Yeah.
So why didn't they just put like the Dire Fest in that other room, that secret room that they had those other competitions, and figure something else out? Because they know like it's not like wall yellers are a new thing, and so the fact that you're going to have these people outside for a whole week, like it's definitely going to give opportunity for people to come and yell something over the wall. And then on top of that, the sound quality out there is so bad. It's like you're not even going to get good quality for your actual show. So like, why wouldn't you maybe try doing something different? If you want to make them suffer, you can make them suffer inside. You don't have to have them outside for your entire season to kind of get ruined by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like also if it really is the wall yeller that impacts like who goes home this week, like that's going to be so disappointing for me. I mean, I just feel like, I don't know, like not that I'm like, oh, I want Kyle to stay, but if it's like, a wall yeller says Kyle is a liar when he actually was telling the truth, and then that false information gets like Terence to get Kyle out, like that's kind of gonna bum me out just because like that's not really the way that this should happen. And like I get why someone went and yelled over the wall and all that, but it's just like it kind of ruins the integrity of the show, I guess, if you want to say. I don't know. Like I get it, and I get why people like were upset with Kyle and all that sort of stuff. But like to lie and say that Kyle is a liar when he was actually telling the truth, and then having that impact the game is just kind of sucky.
Yes, and people will tell you he was lying about some things, but in general, he was. I mean, he's telling a lot more truth than the other players. But yeah, I mean, I've always been against wall yelling. I feel like there's a reason this show isn't the UK show. I personally also would not like outside influence going on. Not to mention the fact that just like, again, like all of this is happening here and, we're not getting to see anything. And I very much blame production more than anything else. At the end of the day, like any individual can go and wall yell. There's no controlling that. And so it's totally down to production to stop this from happening. And they've completely failed. I honestly think this might be one of the biggest screw ups that production has ever done. Especially if it actually changes the results here, because that hasn't really happened before. In the history of the show, there have been influential outside information bits before, but they've always backfired to the person that they're trying to help. And this made me think, right? Because this is what I was. It's always backfired. It backfired on Evil Dick and Danielle, briefly. It backfired on Ian. It backfired on it backfires every time. Every time you're trying to get help to the person that's in power so they make the right decision. They end up making the wrong decision. And it made me realize that's why this one worked. Because it is backfiring on Terence. He's doing the wrong thing based on this information. It just that happened to also be what they wanted.
I'm wondering if you should add production to the stock watch. And so weekly ranking, how do we think production did this week? And I would love to see how they'd go up and down. This week, would we be giving them the one? Would they get the one this week?
They would definitely get the one. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Yeah. So that's where we are here. It's in a spot where there's not much game to talk about. I mean, we can talk about should Michael and Brittany take the shot at Monty. We can talk about Monty's decision to talk about targeting Michael nonstop during his HOH week. But a lot of it comes down to what's happening on the other side. We don't know what's happening on the other side. Should Michael take the shot at Monty? Well, is Kyle leaving or is Joseph leaving? Right. It matters a lot. So, there's not much here.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't know how to rate the players, especially because we don't know who's on the block. I don't know. I feel like if we know that Joseph and Turner are on the block, then okay, yeah, it's pretty easy to say what's going to happen this week. If we know that Joseph and Kyle are on the block,
we don't know.
I don't know. Obviously, the likely scenario is that Joseph is going home. But if Kyle's on the block, then something must have happened to put Kyle on the block. And so maybe that something that happened is going to influence who goes home. So it's even if we knew if that Kyle was sitting on the block right now, it could be part of a plan that Kyle and, Alyssa and Terence came up with to make it look to
like
Turner.
Kyle's still in the
right.
group.
To make it look to Turner that Kyle didn't, spill the beans. Oh, okay. Now we're going to, go back in once Joseph's gone and Turner is going to be in the dark about what actually happened. And so the leftovers will never know that Kyle turned on them.
Which would be a really good strategy, to be fair.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. However, I guess that one leak that came, that 4-second clip where it seems like Kyle is talking about they're revealing information to Terence, in front of Joseph. I mean, that 1-second clip, I don't know, if that actually was him. Because all he said was, join our Festy Bestie, we got your back. And that could mean anything, because it could just be literally no, Terence, we had them join the Festy Bestie because we had your back. They wanted to have your back. That's why they had you join. Or it means this is what they told you, but really they actually weren't going to protect you. I'm revealing everything to you in front of everyone else. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, I will say this. So I talked about this morning. I do believe that spoilers have been happening through the season that have been verifiable and thus verified. In particular, today, BB Gossip, who I do believe to be a credible source, did tweet out that he also can confirm that he believes the veto has been used and that Kyle is on the block. So I'm pretty much there. I'm pretty much, close to 100% that this has happened. I want to reiterate again that just because, there is theoretically credible information out there does not mean that anything a person says that, has been proven right before means that they are going to be correct in the future, especially when it comes to unverifiable information, which BB Gossip himself actually said, railed against in some tweets, do not believe anything anybody tells you about diary room sessions or anything that cannot be verified. I very fully back up that statement. We've seen it in the past that people who have otherwise correct information will make some things up that can't be verified. And especially when it's just this season that things have been verified versus previous seasons where things have been verifiably false. So just be careful on the Big Brother streets. Preferably stick to your credible sources for information, and do not trust anything that is not verifiable. So just it's dangerous out there.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think that if Kyle is on the block, like if all that's accurate and Kyle is on the block, like I don't, as much as it would be good strategy for Kyle to like volunteer to go on the block to like have Terence and him and Alyssa like keep up their story with Turner or whatever, like I don't see that happening because Kyle has never, like Kyle has been so adamant about not being on the block, even as a pawn. Like he just wants nothing to do with that. So I can't really see a scenario where he's like, I'll do it. Maybe because he trusts Alyssa and like knows that she wouldn't vote him out or something, like maybe, but like I really don't see him just putting himself out there like that. I could see him being like, put Alyssa on the plot. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I don't see himself volunteering for that. So,
well, he definitely blew up the leftovers to not go up on the block.
Right.
So,
exactly. Just to not go up on the block. Yeah. So I think we can safely say like this probably wasn't a volunteered block, but I don't know.
Yeah, I would, and that's sort of the second thing that I would say about these rumors is that obviously it's possible that Kyle's on the block intentionally. This was something that was brought up as a possibility in the past, but I very much doubt that this is the way that they would go about it. I do not think that Kyle would be up there intentionally. I do not think that if it was an intentional plan and it wasn't influenced by the wall yeller, that the feeds would continue to be down for so long. I think that just given, and this is obviously not 100%, it's not as solid as I think that the fact that he's on the block is, but I do not think that he would be on the block if it wasn't directly caused by the wall yeller. Otherwise, I don't think the feeds would be down. It's really like at this point, the only reason, especially post veto ceremony, like there's no reason for the feeds to continue to be down unless the wall yeller information had a significant amount to do with the decision to put Kyle on the block, which again, tells me that perhaps he is the target, or was. Maybe he can still talk his way out of it. Who knows? But I have to believe that he went up on the block not voluntarily.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait to see it.
Yeah, who knows? Totally.
The weird thing is trying to get into the headspace of Terence, thinking like, what could I possibly believe that would make me choose to put Kyle on the block? Or, take Turner down and put Kyle on the block. Okay, Kyle is a liar. About what? Do I no longer believe in the leftovers at all? What is happening there? So, there is a part of me that thinks perhaps Terence is just not sure what to trust and decided, I'm going to pull my boy Turner down, off the block and put up Kyle to guarantee. Because the biggest thing Terence wanted this week was to guarantee he took a big shot. No whack moves. And so if Kyle and Joseph are specifically on the block together, then one of them has to go. And he doesn't care too much which one. Even that, though, is a really bad move for Terence because all it does is pisses Kyle off for no reason. Again, it's very difficult to get into his head. We don't even know specifically what he has been told or what he heard or what he thinks he heard or what he believes. So it's very difficult to speculate in any way here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and he might have even had conversations at this point with Turner, and maybe he did go to try to verify some of the things that Kyle has said and be like, is this true? And maybe he was able to oh, this is true, this isn't true. No, we were trying to keep you, whatever. He could definitely be able to shed some more light on what Kyle said. But again, maybe, I don't know, not sure. So it's a lot of speculation and little facts.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some of these questions on the survey. This is, of course, the portion of the podcast we talk about the survey that I release every Tuesday on my Twitter account at Armstrong Taran. You can fill out this survey if you want and give your opinions on the week. One of the opinions you can give is you can rank the players in order of your favorite to your least favorite. And I like to quiz the panel a little bit on who they think is the top pick on the board. Who is the audience's favorite player?
I
think Turner.
I think it's still going to be Michael for the fact that we're getting to see him play the game. We see him win this week. And we're seeing his side of the house. And so he's setting himself up pretty well. I'm thinking that they might stick with Michael.
Melissa is correct. It's Turner.
I was like debating when I was like, are they going to go Michael or Turner? Okay, go ahead.
Now I think Joseph.
Well, that just disrupts everything.
I don't know if it's right, but
because then I'll have to put those two. I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. Then it's Joseph if Turner is at the top.
Should have stuck to your guns. It's Michael.
Oh no! This is all strategy. I steered you wrong on purpose. Yeah, no. Then I think maybe Joseph. I think Joseph and Taylor.
And then I'll say Taylor if you're saying Joseph.
It's Taylor.
Okay. Yes. Got one.
Now Joseph, then Monty.
Correct.
No.
Oh,
it's Brittany.
What?
Wow.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Then Joseph and Monty. I feel like I'm shocked because I've been seeing so much love for Joseph everywhere that I figured.
I think it's the rebound effect that there's, especially with the wall yeller. I think there's a lot of people that are turned off by the wall yelling and sort of Joseph being attached to that. Yeah, they're not quite as high on him anymore.
I gotcha.
So yes, that's Turner, Michael, Taylor, Brittany, and Joseph. They're in 5th place out of 10. Who's at the bottom, though?
I would say Kyle.
I said
probably.
Kyle.
Incorrect.
Wow.
Terence.
Wow.
Interesting.
I thought it would be Kyle for sure.
Yeah, I thought it would be Kyle, but I guess
perhaps the opposite of the rubber banding.
I feel like
perhaps a little bit of sympathy has been injected into Kyle's position for potentially having been screwed over by a wall yeller.
I think appreciating the fact that he is making a big move. I know a lot of people don't love the move and the victims of this move, but the appreciating, I guess, doing something and just going for it, maybe. I don't know.
Yes. Well, it's Terence at the bottom, just below Jasmine.
Okay.
And then it's Kyle. So the order is Turner, Michael, Taylor, Brittany, Joseph, Monty, Alyssa, Kyle, Jasmine, Terence.
I think it's because we didn't see the other side of the house for most of this week because we have no idea what's going on because my order's off, completely off. I have no idea.
All right. So I also had the audience rate the episodes this week. Last week, the episodes were given a 6.3. The week before that, a 7.1. So they had gone down a little bit last week, but still pretty good, pretty above average. This week, a 4.6 for the episodes. This, of course, includes that 2-hour Sunday episode, which was not great. In fact, I think perhaps the 2-hour Thursday episode, the Sunday episode was actually probably the best one of the bunch at this point because the Wednesday one was also bad. The Wednesday episode was bad because it was just like a delaying tactic to get to the 2-hour Thursday episode. And then the 2-hour Thursday episode was also bad. So it was it totally ruined the whole thing.
It was what
bad
do you
episodes.
miss from home? Oh my God, I don't care.
I honestly would have, a 4.6, maybe even a little high. I don't know.
Too high.
Ouch.
I asked the audience to rate the feeds this week.
0.
Just a couple weeks ago, just 3 weeks ago, 7.7 for the feeds. 2 weeks ago, 7.0 for the feeds. Last week, 7.1 for the feeds. They have had some good feed ratings.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean when I said that it just crashed straight down with a whimper. The feeds received a 2.3.
Ooh. Is that the lowest they've ever been?
Probably not. I mean, Big Brother Canada exists.
Yeah, I was gonna say Big Brother Canada. I feel
Hey,
like I've
I'm
been
supporting
worse.
Canada here. No way. Less than that? No way.
There's been some bad weeks on Big Brother Canada, that's for sure.
Fine.
And like Big Brother All Stars, that was real bad.
Oh yeah.
True.
There were some bad ones.
Honestly, yeah, this I would give the feeds a 1. I think that they've just been terrible. I mean, even the good parts of the feeds were ruined by the fact that the audio sucked so much. So, like, there's really no redeeming qualities to the feeds this week. I asked the audience to rate the season as a whole so far. 3 weeks ago, it was a 6.9. 2 weeks ago, it was up to a 7.2. And then last week, a 7.1. It had been on the rise. This week, back down to a 6.4, lowest it's been in a while now. And the first real significant drop, the last time it was 6.4 was 4 weeks ago, in week 3. It was a 6.4, slowly rising up from that slow beginning. Is this the beginning of the end for the season? Will it continue to be dropping down? Or is this just a little bit of a valley that we're going to get through? We'll see.
I hope it's just a hiccup.
Is there any way for them to fix this twist? Like, can they just be like, okay, we're going to erase it and start it all over again? Like, I don't know. Like, I guess not with that new information. Like, I'm just,
well, I think
why is it ruined?
The desire to do a reset week very much depends on the outcome of the week for the fan base.
That's very true.
There was a lot of call for it before. I haven't heard much lately.
Yeah, everyone's like, no, we're good. Just
fine.
Keep
Like a little wall yeller. It's a social experiment, you know, part of the society.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I did ask the audience to rate the split house twist. Now, the best rating the bestie twist got was a 3.0. The split house twist is going to get a 3.7 this week. So I feel like this is the balance between like the concept is there, the execution is terrible. And so I think that's a pretty fair rating.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the idea of it is good. The timing and the way it was done, not so good.
I'm just wondering though, I'm sure they workshop these and brainstorm and like what would be good, what would be the best for television, like what would be like. I feel like they would go through this process for every single one of these twists. And so how did it just get let out into like onto our televisions or not, because we're not seeing it this week, but like it has potential and it's very easy fixes. It's not expensive, the fixes. It's not like super wild what we could be, possibly create here. I don't understand how they let this twist out without it being better.
Here's what happened. The one person that does the twists, because surely multiple people, once you put 2 people together, it's impossible to get twists this bad. So at some point, somebody's going to be like, that's not correct. It's definitely one person.
Yeah, for sure.
That one person, they came up with the backstage twist and everyone was like, that's a terrible twist. And then it never happened. And then they were like, oh, you guys didn't get to see how good it was. It's no. Then they put together this bestie twist and everyone was like, oh my God, worst twist ever. This is the worst thing ever. And people were like all over the place. Like, oh, what a terrible bestie twist. And then it played out fine because of the leftovers. And the twist person was like, that's right, you stupid fans. You don't understand how twists work, do you? I'm right. You're wrong. And so in the lead up to the split house situation, all the fans were saying, don't stick them outside. That's a bad idea. The fans were saying, don't let them pick their own groups. It has to be random. And the twist person was like, oh, you fools. You think you know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I can make the twists however I want them to be, and it's going to be the opposite of what you want.
That sounds about right. Yeah, okay.
That's how it happened.
I believe it. I believe it. Oh my God. Yeah. I just feel like I'd be very interested to like sit in on one of these like meetings where
I would love to.
Just to be like, okay, how does this work? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's many layers that they have to go through to get these twists or whatever approved, but it's like, I don't know if they're by people, like getting approval by people who like actually care and like know the show, or if it's just like higher ups and you're just like going one level and you're just like, yeah, whatever, you know, let's just do it. And I'd really love to like sit in on one of those meetings and see like what the heck happens.
Well, I have to say though, okay, so before the pandemic happened, I used to run a Big Brother weekend. And so plotting and like planning twists and different things that to happen is actually really fun from like a game master perspective of it. And seeing your twist play out is kind of satisfying. But we are super fans of the show. We're like, no, it can't be a terrible twist that people would absolutely hate, just because we would find enjoyment seeing people have to scramble around. And so you're right, Taran. If there's more than one person talking about it, we definitely go through all the variables like, no, that's actually terrible. We shouldn't do that. But there is some sort of gratification that we want to have with seeing our twists play out. And so I think that that must be like kind of a little bit of like a God complex that is happening with this one guy, this game master that like needs to see his twists play out.
Oh, yeah. Well, I also asked the audience to rate Michael and Terence's HOH reigns. Since there were 2 HOHs, there are 2 HOH reigns to rate. Last week, the audience rated the Taylor HOH reign a 3.7. Wasn't great. This week, they rated Michael's HOH reign a 7.2. Which honestly, I think kind of low, because this is a pretty fantastic. Not only did he nail his HOH reign, he also managed to nail the other person's HOH reign for them. And everything's going super smooth. So I'd honestly give this one a very high rating. I'd give it more than a 7.2. But a 7.2 is certainly the highest that we've ever seen an HOH rating before, because we've only done it for 2 weeks.
Wow.
But still pretty high, right?
Very high. It's great.
Very impressive.
Then I asked the audience to rate Terence's HOH reign. You know what they did?
Gave him a 0.
They said, I don't know. They gave him a 5 on the dot.
Okay,
Oh
yeah,
my God.
exactly. Okay, 5.
I guess I believe that because we don't know like how this is turning out. So I guess fine, maybe could go either way.
Pretty
Who
much.
knows?
I mean, I'll say this.
Okay.
I think putting Kyle up is a boneheaded decision, no matter how you look at it. So, like if Kyle volunteered, it's a boneheaded decision because you're allowing Kyle to have credible information that will put you on the target list ahead of him. If Kyle didn't volunteer, but you don't plan to send him out, then all you're doing is pissing him off for no reason because you trusted a wall yeller when you shouldn't have. And if he's putting Kyle up to send him out, that's the worst of all, because inside the house, they're saying, well, it's either Kyle or Terence next, which means you're probably next if you get rid of Kyle, which is a very bad idea.
Yeah.
Especially after they learned that he's won a second competition, like his threat level is going to go way up. And so, yeah, maybe 5's too high for Terence. Just for the fact that he's quite gullible, it seems like, with his gameplay. Like anybody that says something to him, he just kind of runs with it. And it's always with the people that you don't want him to be working with. Like, why was he so gung-ho about Daniel? Like, what? Stop this. Like, Kyle, yes, he's going to be giving him some information, but like, why are you really listening to Kyle? He has a showbiz that he's trying to protect. Like, can't you see that? But so I think he gets less than a 5 if we're me anyways. If we're ranking them, are we rating them? Like,
it's just general feelings. Do we agree with the rating or not? I also asked, do you think Michael made the best decision for his game with his nominations? 92% of the audience agreed with his nominations. The other 8% apparently thinks he should have nominated Taylor or Brittany. So,
no.
Also asked, did you think Terence made the best decision for his game with his nominations? And only 59% of the audience agreed with his nominations, even though I also agreed with his nominations. Well, again, why would he put up Kyle and risk letting Turner and Joseph send Kyle out potentially, or you know, even worse, Alyssa? Like that would be absolutely terrible for his game. I thought Terence, up until nominating Kyle, was actually playing this week pretty well, and was going to be put in a spot where now Kyle and Alyssa are bigger targets in front of him. True. If Turner actually was on that side, like he's going to be a bigger target than him. And he was actually in a position where I was like, oh, he might actually be dragged to the end as the GOAT. Like this, he you know, that wall yeller might have cost Terence $75K. We're going to have to wait and see.
I feel like
it's shade.
I don't know. I feel like I kind of think that his original nominations might have been better if they were Joseph and Kyle. Like, even if he knew that, like, if Kyle revealed all this information to him, like, that's great. But to, like, keep up appearances, you would think that putting up Kyle and Joseph would make the most sense, because then he could maintain his relationship with Alyssa, because he already told her, like, I want to keep you safe. I don't want you going on the block. He could have maintained his relationship with Turner. Okay, what is that, Taran? What is that?
People in the chat are saying outside feeds.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Well, I love how Terrence's face is just like, ooh, in the middle of my sentence. But basically, like, I think that it could have been good to keep up his appearances with Turner, because Turner is, like, pissed after this and is like, well, now you've put me on the block. He could have been like, Turner, I'm working with you. Like, Alyssa, I'm working with you. Secretly being like, okay, Kyle, like, I trust you. Like, if it comes down to a tie, which, like, it could if Turner decided to vote out Kyle, Terence would just vote out Joseph. Like, right? Like, so
but I think
it makes sense.
The worry there is, though, if Turner is off, then he wins the veto, takes off Joseph, and then he wouldn't be able to honor that with Alyssa. So essentially, by not doing that, he's not putting her in harm's way.
I guess so. I don't know. I just, like, I feel like he ruined his relationship with Turner, when initially at the beginning of the week, Turner was like, I feel pretty good about this. Like, Terence is, like, telling me I'm safe, like, blah, blah, blah. And then by the end, he's like, Terence has got to go.
So I do disagree, because at the beginning of the week, Turner was talking about, like, Terence is my next target. And by the end of the time the feeds shut down, he was saying, okay, it's us four. I'm with Terence. Like, I think it actually worked out pretty well prior to.
Who was he saying that to?
He was saying that to Kyle and Alyssa.
Well, of course he's going to say that to Kyle.
Right. He might have been lying, but it was certainly a step up from where it was before, in my opinion.
Well, does anyone know what's going on in the outside feeds? What's going on?
Well, here's the thing. I believe the outside feeds are on. But given the pacing of the outside feeds in the past, it will probably be like 2 hours before we hear any game talk, if that. So we'll see. We're gonna keep an eye out here. We could have
Turner knows Kyle exposed the leftovers.
I don't think we're gonna find. I think they're talking about TV right now. Which is better than them not talking at all, which is most of the outside feeds.
Interesting. And they're talking about TV shows. Great.
Like, why are they bringing him on now, though? It's like they knew that we were on there.
Yeah, they were like, we're gonna make those ratings real live, aren't we?
Oh my God.
Oh, someone say feeds down now again.
Back down.
We'll feeds
see.
Down again.
We'll see. We'll keep an eye out.
Live commenting on the chat. We're going to chat. What do you got for us? Oh my God. Back up. Someone says back up.
Okay. That's all right. Well, if any actual information comes out, we'll be sure to update as we go, if possible. Again, this is difficult because not being able to watch ourselves, of course, means that we can't necessarily verify any information that we're getting. But we will do our best here. I did ask, who do you want to be evicted on the inside this week? And 90% of the audience said Jasmine over Monty. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's fine.
I also asked the audience, who do you want to be evicted outside this week? And I included all four options that weren't Terence, because theoretically all four of them could go. But Kyle led the charge with 61%, followed by Joseph with 29%, and then Alyssa with 10%, and Turner with 1%.
That's cute.
Interesting. I wonder why Alyssa was so low, if, like, that was given as an option. I guess maybe because people were like, yeah, she's not going.
Yeah, I think so. I think people knew it was probably between Kyle and Joseph. And so they mostly put it there. So it sounds like we're seeing that Kyle's stuff perhaps is packed. Just more potential confirmation that he is in fact on the block. Not that I really doubted that. The thing I'm most curious about is way too complicated, I guess, for just a simple yes. Like, what do they know? What's the reason he's on the block? Who's going home? We'll see. I asked the audience, who do you want to win HOH next week? And at the top of the board, Brittany.
Okay.
People would like to see Brittany win HOH next week. Now, what she does with that HOH probably depends on the situation, where if Kyle is there, she probably targets Kyle. If Joseph is not there. If Kyle is not there and Joseph is there, then she probably targets Terence, and she tries to keep Alyssa safe because Michael and Brittany were hoping to work with Alyssa if Kyle is gone. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird choice, but they want Brittany.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fine.
I'd like to see it, to see what she would do with her own power instead of just like feeding, talking with Michael about his powers that he's been having. So yeah, I'd like to see what she has to do with it.
All right. Monty was in second place with 19% of the vote, and then Turner with 15%. For a long time, Taylor was at the top of this board.
And then they saw it. They were like, take it back. Never mind.
We're good with the Taylor HOHs for now, says the audience.
If Joseph isn't there, maybe she'll have a better HOH. Maybe
yeah, true.
He influenced her in the wrong direction for her game.
You would hope. Yeah.
Who knows?
You would hope. All right, so those are the questions here, man. We're in an interesting spot here because theoretically we could be learning, bits and pieces of information that could dramatically change how we are rating things as it goes. But I think we have to get to the ratings. We will be starting with the inside people first, so that'll give us at least a little bit of time to learn anything that's happening outside.
Okay.
So this is, of course, the portion of the podcast where we rate the players from 1 to 10 based on how well we think they are doing in the game. I tend to look at it from 3 perspectives, even though people only ever really think about 1 when they criticize my ratings. 1 is long-term prospects, 2 is short-term safety, and 3 is how well they did this week. What kinds of decisions did they make? Were they good decisions? Were they bad decisions? It's very subjective. So let's get to it. Let's pull up the stock watch.
Nice.
Here it is. Here it is. Okay, here it is. We're going to start with Michael. I also, of course, poll the audience through the survey that I tweet out every week. And the audience rates the house guests as well. We take their rating into account. So let's get started. We're going to start with Michael. Michael. You know what? I said it would be easy because we'll start with the inside people. And then I realized that Michael's rating is so heavily dependent on whether Kyle or Joseph leaves.
I know.
Exactly.
It's so hard.
It's like,
this is going to be really hard.
But the thing is, it was going to be hard. It was going to be difficult. But I was going to be like, but we don't know. The thing that's annoying me is that I'm going to give Michael a rating. And then by the time I get to rating Alyssa, we might learn that oh yeah, Kyle's leaving. And I might want to have, I can't go back. It's already done, but literally this might be outdated in minutes. It's annoying.
Yeah. This is tough.
Anyway.
I
think Michael did a great job. Obviously, this twist was a weird situation to navigate. Winning the HOH, choosing the teams. I thought he chose the teams perfectly with great reasoning. I think that he made the right call, and I think that he's making the right call as well, targeting Jasmine over Monty. I think that not knowing what's happening on the outside, this is the safer play. I do think there's a lot of value to taking out Monty if Kyle leaves, but he doesn't know which one is going to happen, and there is a little more play on the side of taking out Jasmine than there is on the side of taking out Monty. That said, Monty is looking to target him, which is not super great, but Monty should be waiting for at least a couple of weeks, probably. I don't see him making the move without the support of Taylor at this time, and even Joseph, I don't think would be willing to take but even, you know what, because what could be happening, for all we know, the Wall-Yeller outed Kyle, who then maybe outed Michael and Brittany to Joseph. And if Joseph comes back in, he's like, oh, Michael and Brittany, you guys were totally in on the Kyle stuff. And then who knows? I'm annoyed.
Ratings purgatory. We just don't know what's going on.
I know. I
have to take a risk. This is one timeline. It's a timeline that we're going to go down.
Everyone needs to take our ratings this week with a grain of salt, a huge, massive grain of salt.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
So I do think that Michael made some good decisions. I think that he played this week very well, probably about as well as he could have. I think that in terms of his decision making this week, high ratings, very good stuff. Short-term safety, I don't know. Long-term prospects, I think, have continued to improve. He is now like solidly in the final 8 and probably shouldn't be a target at the final 8, which means he should at least hopefully get to final 7 for his game, at which point he's got some options. So I still do like Michael's position. I also like the moves that he made this week. If Kyle leaves, it is disaster. It is maybe not utterly disastrous for his game, but taking out Jasmine and then Kyle leaving is very not good for his game. But until I know that that's going to happen, I'm gonna give him a 7. There's too much uncertainty to go higher for me. If I knew it was happening on the other side, I would be easily giving him an 8 or even a 9. Like, he was in a position to be a much higher rating until this Kyle thing happened, but I there's too much uncertainty to go much higher than a 7 for me. It's gonna have to be a 7. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think like not knowing whether Kyle's going or Joseph's going this week is really impacting, the ability to make a rating for Michael, because that's really going to affect his game moving forward. I think like obviously like winning something again, maybe not so good for him just because, people are starting to notice it. But, who knows? It doesn't seem like people care that much, even though they should. And the way that he's played this week has been really good for him. I mean, even in terms of like jury votes, because he still maintains that whole like, oh, Monty's the target thing to Jasmine. And then also Jasmine's going, but it's like, oh, I didn't vote you out. I thought Monty was the target. Oops. He can still kind of play that card. So I think in terms of jury votes, he's doing okay. I think it is a little concerning that Monty is saying that he wants to go after Michael. But I mean, like, obviously someone's going to want to go after Michael. The question is like, will he have the people rallied around him to get Michael out? And I don't know if he will at this point. I don't think Brittany is going to want to target Michael before targeting Monty or targeting Joseph or Kyle or whoever comes back. And so I don't necessarily see that actually like happening, but there's always a possibility in the fact that people are talking about it not so good. So just because I have no idea like what's going on the outside, I'm going to give him a 7 as well.
All right, Chantele, what do you think?
Well, I think I'm going to have to be a little bit higher on Michael, just for the fact that he was able to really set up the teams perfectly for himself. I don't think that Terence really knew that he was falling into the trap of like Michael pretty much predicting who he was going to be picking and how he can set up these teams. And I think that we should respect that he was able to do that. I don't know how quick it was. Like, I don't know if it was just that commercial break or if he had a longer time to figure things out, but he really set himself up decently. And this variable of a wall yeller, like, are we going to ding him for that? Because like, it's not really his fault if something happens on the other side that was completely out of his control. And we don't even know what actually has happened there with that, if that or whatnot. So I do feel like he's playing the best game for sure on the inside. I know he's won a lot of competitions, but at this point, he might just have to continue winning competitions because like his threat level is super high already and people are going to be coming for him. And so at this point, I think it's almost fine. I do think he does still have other people that he can point the target at. And I know that obviously, depending on what happens on the outside, like, threat level might rise, but I just feel like what he's done this week has been worthy of an 8.
I think that's very fair. And so does the audience, because the audience also gave Michael an 8 this week. And it does, man, I do feel like, I'm glad that he made the 8 because I do feel like he did play this week very, very well. It's just, there's so much uncertainty happening that like, I think all of my ratings are going to feel kind of a little bit crushed into the middle just because I still don't know what's going to happen until I find out what's happening. And then maybe they'll start to split up again. So let's then talk about Taylor. Melissa, how do you feel about Taylor?
Well, I certainly feel better about Taylor this week than I did last week. I feel like she's in a pretty decent spot now. I mean, like, it was really great for her that Michael picked her. I think, like, if she had been anywhere else, and same with, I could say this about other people as well, especially like someone like Monty or something like that. Like, if they weren't picked by Michael, this could have been a very, very bad week for them. So I think that the fact that Taylor was picked by Michael was great. I think her relationship with Brittany is good. Her relationship with Monty, I think, is really improved and really good. However, Monty gives her information. She gives it to Brittany. Brittany's really close with Michael. Like, I don't know if that was her best move, revealing what Monty's plans are to Brittany. But at this point in time, it doesn't seem like Brittany has really like revealed that to Michael. Maybe that's something I missed, but at this point, I don't believe that she has, which is good for Taylor because it shows that Brittany wants to work with Taylor and, maybe eventually might be comfortable taking a shot at Michael. I don't know what her ultimate plan is. But yeah, I feel like she did a good job this week. She basically, stayed under the radar, didn't really cause any waves. I mean, not that they needed to since Jasmine was the target and it was a very easy week for her, but I think that's very good. So yeah, I think overall pretty good week. I don't know what's going to happen, once the other side comes back. Like, I mean, if Joseph gets eliminated, like, that's really not good for Taylor because they were so close. If Kyle gets eliminated, that would be good for Taylor. So like, I really, it's very hard to determine. I know we're going to say that about every single person. But I think at this point, I do feel comfortable increasing her rating. So I'm going to increase it to a 6.
All right, Chantele, what do you think?
So, I mean, last week for poor Taylor, it wasn't a great week as head of household, but I think that she didn't have that much blowback from her head of household reign. It doesn't seem like people are super angry with her. We know that Indy left that week with wanting to target Kyle or like not wanting Kyle to win. And so she didn't really get any blowback for what went down on her head of household reign, it seems. And, the fact that she's really solidifying these relationships, her and Monty are kind of hashing out with what happened the first week. And so, they seem to be bonding at this point. It doesn't seem like he's looking to come for her anytime soon. And Brittany hasn't been telling Michael about what Taylor has been saying. So that means that their bond seems to be a little bit better. And so it looks like more people are wanting to take Taylor closer to the end and not willing to take her out right now. And I think that that's really positive and good for her. Now, I know that it's a possibility that Joseph might go out this week, but it might be better for her game. So people won't be wanting to break those two apart. Like, she just will look like a lone ranger that people can come and bring on in and to be part of their group if they need some numbers. And so I think that I definitely think that she's improved her game from last week. And so I am agreeing with Melissa and going up to a 6 for Taylor.
All right. Well, the audience agrees with both of you. The audience also gave Taylor a 6 this week. And Taylor's in an interesting spot too. I mean, as is everybody, but it's strange because I do think that I don't like Taylor telling Brittany about what Monty said. I think it's a bad move no matter how you look at it. But Chantele is right. Brittany, as far as we know, hasn't said anything to Michael yet. So I'm going to be a little more lenient on this just because it's possible that it never gets told, and it's possible that relationship, is doing okay here. And on top of that, because that's really like the bad part of her game this week, the worst part of her game this week. But apart from that, this week has been really good for her in a couple of different ways. One is that Michael and Brittany feel much better about her this week than they did last week, because last week she was, with Joseph so much, and she was a little bit all over the place in terms of her HOH reign. They are back to now feeling like, locked in final 3 with Taylor, assuming we don't get Terence on board. And that's great. She's also developed a much better relationship with Monty, which is fantastic for her game. And then you have what's happening on the other side, where either Kyle's going to become a big target, where, Monty and Michael and Brittany are all targeting Kyle, or Kyle's gone and Joseph is still there and Joseph is still loyal to her, and probably Monty, and that's good. So Joseph staying would be huge for her game. Kyle staying, not even that terrible for her game, considering the fact that Kyle has been thinking about targeting Michael next to Monty. That Kyle's not going to bother targeting Taylor knowing that Michael is there. I think that Kyle's preferable sort of like target list at this point is Monty first, then perhaps Michael. And now that was before the feeds cut. So who knows? But I actually really like Taylor's position here. I feel like she's primed to make it to the end game. And I do think that she has a very good shot to win. I really do. I think that, Indy's in the jury house, fully capable of voting for Taylor at this point, given what she was saying in her exit interviews. And, even Jasmine, probably the most anti-Taylor person left in the game. Who's she going to talk to about it? We've seen her surrounded by people that won't indulge her trash talking, and it doesn't exist anymore. I feel like she's not going to be leading any charge against Taylor. And maybe Terence might still harbor some anti-Taylor feelings, but I if anything, I feel like the perception that nobody will vote for Taylor is a good thing for her because people will be more willing to take her to the end. I actually think she definitely has a good chance to win in the end, especially because that HOH week was overshadowed with all of the Kyle stuff in the split house and everything happening now. I feel like people aren't going to remember how messy it was. So I do really like her position. Obviously, a lot is up in the air, but I do feel like Taylor is in one of the more stable positions overall. This could have been higher. It could have been lower. But for me, I'm going to agree with the 6. So that's going to be Taylor's rating. Chantele, how do you feel about Brittany?
I'm feeling so much better about Brittany than I was in the beginning of this game. I remember used to always being worried if Brittany was getting in on a conversation that she might say something that she didn't need to say. And I don't know if it's because she's been working with Michael so closely, being festy besties with him, being forced to having game conversations, that she's kind of learned how to play a little bit better. And I think it's rubbing off on her. The fact that she hasn't said what Taylor has said about Monty yet. I mean, I don't know if she might in the future, but she's holding that in and gaining information and having conversations with Monty now. Monty and Taylor want to have her as a threesome and move further down into the game. And so she's being brought in as well into these new kind of groupings or alliances. And I think that's really good for her because she wasn't always being pulled into things beforehand. And so I think that her game is improving a lot. I think that right now she's wrestling with I really want to go to the end with Michael, but I know that I can't win against him. And so the fact that she's even having these thoughts of maybe doing something that could be better for her game at one point, I think is really positive and makes me think a lot more highly of what she's capable of doing. So I'm debating between 2 numbers for her because we haven't really seen her with power yet. And so if I'd seen her with power, then to have an idea if she's going to follow through with the things that she's going to say or if she's going to line herself up in a good way, I can't go too high. So I'm going to give her a 7.
All right. The audience agrees with you. They also gave Brittany a 7. I gave Brittany a 7 last week, and this is up from the 6 last week for Brittany. I've always, for the last few weeks, I've sort of been higher on Brittany than I think most people, except for apparently Piridium last week. But I do feel pretty good about Brittany right now. Again, the biggest issue for Brittany's game is long-term prospects, right? We did get another bit of confirmation. She said to the cameras, "I'm happy losing to Michael in the final 2. If I lose to a strong player who's my best friend in this game, that's a good outcome for me." So that's not great. I would love to know that she would be willing to cut Michael if she has the opportunity to, and I don't think that she will, but she might not have to because there are a lot of people in this game that might be looking to do it for her. And I think she knows that too. And I think she's also, again, as she said, she's not going to stop trying to win. And I do think that there are a couple things going for her. One is that she has made some really good relationships, particularly with Taylor and with Alyssa, either of which could sort of be decent advocates for her on the jury. And I think that they could make some decent points for her. Maybe not the most influential players there, but could do well if they're not there. Then we also have the a possibility of if Michael is taken out early, which would not be good for Brittany's game, of course, but it could be good for her end game prospects because I do believe that Michael would be a pretty good advocate for her in the jury. He could definitely tell people what she's been doing and sort of give her a lot of credit for some of the moves that they've made. And really, obviously Michael has a lot of scenarios that they've talked through. And so he can use those scenarios to advocate for her. And he understands the importance of having somebody advocating for you on the jury. So I think that all of those things are good. I like what she's done this week. I like what she's doing in general. She won a competition this week. That's pretty great. So I am going to agree that Brittany has a 7 from me. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I would agree. I've been very impressed with Brittany. And I think I don't really see her being in a dangerous position moving forward. At this point, I think that there are much bigger targets than her. And the fact that Taylor revealed that information to her is really huge. The fact, like we said, the fact that she hasn't yet revealed that information to Michael, I think is a good indicator of her strategy moving forward, in that she has Michael, but she's not, just divulging everything to him and just letting him control the game. She also has her own game to play. And I appreciate that. I think it doesn't necessarily matter all that much who comes back from the outside for Brittany, just as much as it does to some of the others. So I think that's good for her. So at this point, I'm going to give her a 7 as well.
All right. Sounds like we talked about it this morning. They have apparently put some kind of cover over the roof of the backyard.
They should have done that originally.
Just to begin with.
You'd think. So clearly the wall yelling was an issue of sorts. I don't know what cover it is. It's a tarp isn't going to block any noise. I don't know what it's people are speculating that it's a tarp, but that wouldn't do anything. So who knows, but they're doing something, I guess. Anyway, let's talk about Monty. How do we feel about Monty? Well, the audience feels about a 6 on Monty. About a 6 for Monty. Same as last week. Monty's an interesting one because Monty is probably the person whose rating, other than the people whose fates are literally in jeopardy in the outside situation, I think probably the person whose rating will vary the most based on what happens outside. If Joseph leaves and Kyle stays, that's very bad for Monty. Monty is the next big target for Kyle, Alyssa, Terence. If any one of those 3 win, then they are obviously Terence can't compete, but Kyle and Alyssa certainly would be targeting Monty. In addition to that, depending on where Turner goes, he could theoretically be with them and potentially targeting, Monty. I really just don't know what Turner would do in that spot. He's never had the closest relationship with Monty. He's just been in the pound with him. He's always been closer to Kyle. So it's hard to know. Maybe Turner goes after Michael. Who knows at this point? But either way, it's not a good spot for Monty versus a situation where Joseph comes back in, Kyle is gone, and all of a sudden now Monty is kind of in the driver's seat. In some ways, that puts Monty on top of the pile. That Joseph isn't coming for Monty. Taylor's not coming for Monty. Michael and Brittany might need to go for Monty, but they probably have to go for Joseph first because they have this alliance with Monty. And there's other targets. There's Terence and there's Alyssa still to deal with. And there's Turner still involved. And I think that at that point, Monty is probably able to pull Turner. And now he's got the remnants of the pound and he's got Taylor, Michael, Brittany on the other side. And all of a sudden, Monty has just inherited Kyle's previous position before he gave it up. And he's in the best spot in the game. So which one is it? I don't know. We also have to account for the fact that A, he was perfectly fine going on the block, which I'm totally okay with. No problem there. Not docking his game for that. But B, after going on the block, started talking about targeting Michael for no reason. What's the reason? There's no reason. Michael and Brittany are in control of your fate right now. You don't need to be talking about targeting them, especially when they are full of uncertainty about what's happening on the other side of the game. Like, stop, Monty. He could still theoretically leave this week. He's on the block. How am I supposed to give him a high rating?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so annoying. Okay. So with all of this uncertainty, I gave him a 7 last week. I have to give him a 5 this week, just because it is still possible that he goes home, especially because of the conversation that Brittany had with Taylor last night, which I thought was a more damning conversation than the one they had previously. I have not seen Brittany have an opportunity to talk with Michael about that conversation yet. It's still possible that she does. It's still possible that they really fully discuss targeting Monty, having Monty leave. He's on the block. He could go home on Thursday, and Joseph could leave and Kyle could stay, and both of those things are pretty bad for Monty. So I think that it's possible his rating skyrockets from here, because I think he's in a really good position if he stays and if Kyle goes. But those things have not happened yet, and so I have to be conservative here and give him a 5. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tricky one because I don't think he's necessarily played this week so terribly, but I do think that there have been a few things that are not great moving forward. I mean, the fact that Brittany didn't tell Michael yet is like very lucky for him, but she still has time before the end of the week. And also now she has that ammo too, to immediately go after him and get Michael to go after him like next week. So I think like Monty trusts Taylor too much to tell her that. And then Taylor goes and tells Brittany, and then Brittany might go tell Michael. And then it's like, it's not good. And especially like you said, especially when he's like sitting on the block at Michael's hand, like he literally could go home. It's just not good timing, coupled with the outside house. Who knows what's going to happen there. But I do feel like Monty is seen as a big target moving forward. And, it's concerning for sure. I was going to give him a 6, but I feel like the way we've all been talking is making me think he should get a 5, just because like, even without the outside stuff, he still didn't play this week all that great, not to mention the fact that he volunteered to go on the block, which like, yes, I get why, because it's like, well, we're going to keep up this appearance that I'm the target, but like, it's not great to volunteer to go on the block anyway. So I think because of all of that, I have to give him a 5 as well.
All right, Chantele.
Yeah, I'm in a similar position as you, Melissa, because like before we started talking about Monty, I was like, do I think that, yeah, maybe a 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think 6 would be good for Monty. And then just hearing like he's playing it actually badly. He's not playing it well. I know that, the keeping up appearances and, not wanting to let on that they're working together, fine. But I don't think that he's putting himself in a better position. I don't think that he's creating better bonds with people. And especially talking about targeting the head of a household while you're on the block, it just actually doesn't make any sense to me. And so it doesn't allow me to believe that he's actually a good game player that can put himself in a better position. And so I like, if I gave him a 6, that means that I have like faith that he could do well in this game. And I think that he just happens to be positioned well in the game, maybe not now, but like beforehand, and was working with other people that were a little bit better at the game than him. But I don't know if I trust his game ability moving forward. So I am agreeing with you guys with a 5 for Monty.
I will push back a little bit, because I do think that Monty has done some good work this week. I think that his head is in the right place when he's thinking about targeting Michael. It's just, it shouldn't be said out loud right now. Right. And in addition to that, I do think that his good social game is kind of sort of like rearing its head back up, right? Okay. The bonding that he's done with Michael, I think, has significantly helped his chances of staying with Michael. Now, if it wasn't paired with secretly talking about targeting Michael, it would be much, much better. But I do think that he has shown me that the guy that we saw in week 1 that was doing a really good job, he was still there all this time. He's just kind of been lying dormant, which I don't love. But I do think there's still some potential here, especially if things work out well for him this week, which is why I think, I'd be very not surprised if Monty was by far the best buy this week. if by the end of the week we're seeing that Kyle is leaving and that Monty is staying, because I do think that he's in a position to really jump from here. But for right now, I am still also agreeing with you with the 5, especially because people are saying like, oh, well, they plan to tell Jasmine that she's leaving soon.
Right.
I don't think that means that, oh, it's definitely locked in at that point. That's a flexion point. Like that's a point in time where things could change because they tell Jasmine she's going to leave. And now all of a sudden Jasmine realizes she needs to campaign and she starts making promises and she starts making points that maybe Michael and Brittany haven't thought about yet. That's a scenario where all of a sudden they may start to reconsider. I don't think they will, but I do still think it's possible. So that's where I am with Monty. All right, let's talk about Jasmine. Speaking of, how do I feel about Jasmine? She's not done great this week, but she's also not been like the worst. I think it's really bad that she's leaving in a spot where she's next to Monty and she is still like theoretically limping. I do not like that. So obviously, the big thing is should we give her a 1 here? She's played very poorly, all of these things. For me, her play this week has been not that bad. I mean, it's not been good, but it has not been a 1. She's not like actively sinking her own ship here. I feel like, if she had gone home in previous weeks where she was doing all this bad stuff, sure, I'd give her the 1. But I just feel like, for me at least, it's a 2. I feel like she, as Brittany said, she's like been on her best behavior this week. She's actually sort of like, by being on her best behavior, sort of given them the option of keeping her if they did decide they wanted to, and not reminded them of, how untrustworthy she is. And I do think it is, still theoretically possible that she does stay. So I'm going to go with a 2 for Jasmine, and it's down low as at a 2 because she hasn't done barely a thing to keep herself safe this week. So still a very bad rating, just sort of explaining why I didn't go as low as the 1. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, same. She's a 2 for me.
All right. Chantele?
2 for her from me as well. And I mean, with Jasmine, I think, the reason why she's not a 1 for me is the fact that she's been kind of likable this week, which is very interesting. It's probably because she doesn't have the people to do any, hate chats with, but like, she's been kind of likable and I've been like, oh, she's not so bad. And so I think that if something happens, they do tell her and maybe she starts campaigning and reminding them like, hey, I can't even really compete. Like my ankles hurt still. Like they might be like, wait, that's kind of silly of us to getting rid of somebody that's like not able to compete. Maybe they'll change their mind. And so, yeah, I agree with the 2. She hasn't done that much, but she's been a little bit more likable. And so I think that gives her a little extra point. So 2.
Mm-hmm. The audience agrees. They gave her a 2 as well. It did come close to the 1, but it is going to be a 2 overall. And now it's time to talk about what's happening outside. And we still don't know. This is like the worst case scenario where the feeds came back. And so we could have learned more, but we haven't.
Yeah. We haven't.
So it's just been a distraction all podcast.
I know, just like you're reading the chat.
I'm literally just like on Twitter, like, okay, is it, yeah. It's not
all
good.
right. Well, it's time to head outside.
Like it. We're walking outside.
Ready?
Yeah. Okay. You're going the wrong way, Chantele.
I thought we were all going the same way.
Chantele went inside. It was a big mix-up.
You know what, though? On my screen, I'm going the same way as you, but I have my mirror on. My camera mirror is on. Okay.
That's so funny. Yeah. Taran and I were like going the same way.
I know, but for me, like, I'm perfectly in sync with you guys.
She's like, I'm going somewhere else. Sorry, I don't want to go with you.
All right. Well, let's talk about Terence, and we will start with Melissa. How do you feel about Terence?
Oh, this is hard because I don't think he's played this week all that poorly. I mean, he won both competitions. Like, he could have been going home this week. That's really what people wanted, either him or Alyssa. Instead, he wins the competition, the HOH, and then he wins the veto. So it's like very good for him in that regard. Also, the fact that now he knows what's going on in the house, what's been happening. Kyle revealed everything to him. That's huge. I mean, just knowing that those things are going on, you're not in the dark anymore. You have some sort of awareness of like the strategy that's been going on behind the scenes and who's working together. And that's huge for him. However, I think, I don't know who goes home this week on their end. I don't know what's going to happen on that side, but even no matter what, there are people that want to target Terence on the inside. They're saying, first of all, once they hear that he won the veto as well, he's a huge threat. Alyssa hasn't really won anything. So the idea of like, oh, let's get out Alyssa first. I mean, especially if Kyle goes home this week, I don't think he will, but if Kyle goes home this week and then Alyssa's just like a lone person, obviously Terence is going to be the target. He'll be the next one. If Kyle stays, however, you could argue the showman's thing. So maybe Terence kind of falls to the wayside, especially if people find out that Kyle revealed all this information. But at this point, I do think he's a fairly large target moving forward. And I think, however, he did play this week a little better. He does have some more information. And going back in the house, if Kyle's plan works out the way that Kyle's plan he wanted it to work out, Kyle, Terence, Alyssa, and Turner could potentially be going back into the house to like work together against the other side. I don't know if that's going to happen, but the fact that's even something being brought up is much better than Terence was doing last week. So I do think Terence has played this week fairly well. I mean, as well as I think he could have. I don't feel comfortable going super high just because he is high priority target, especially with all these wins. So I think I'm going to go to between a 4 and a 5. But I guess I'll say 4 just because I don't really know how this week is playing out. But I'll give him a 4, I guess.
All right, Chantele.
I don't know.
Yeah, so Terence, I mean, I guess I haven't been enjoying his gameplay, so it's hard for me to rate him. And then we also don't have all the information. I can agree that he has been doing a decent job this week, but I don't know if I like how kind of gullible he is, or that he's not using the information a little bit better, or like solidifying something where that he's not just like a number, like Kyle just saying like, yeah, come with us, like that he's actually going to be really in something. And so I don't know if he has the capacity to be able to do that as a player, to have people be really solid with him, that would be really fighting with him. I think that anybody, even Turner, would give him up if like that was what had to happen. I don't think that he has anybody that's really championing for him to be there. And so he also has people that are targeting him. But I do think that, the fact that he won 2 competitions, nobody was expecting him to win anything. They kept him in the game because they thought that Indy was going to be a better competitor than he was. And so he was definitely misjudged there. And then now he's proven to be someone that is a little bit more of a competitor. So it leads me to believe that maybe he will be able to protect himself further along in the game. And so for that reason, I think a 4 is a little bit low. I'm going to give him a 5. So right in the middle, give him a 5. He has room for improvement. He's gone up a lot from last week. This is the best I've seen him play, absolutely. And so I'm going to hover at a 5.
All right. Well, the audience gave Terence a 4. A 4 from the audience. And again, we are now in the stage where the ratings are highly dependent on what is actually happening here. I can say I could have gone as high as a temporary 6 for Terence this week. It wouldn't have stayed at a 6, but just in terms of winning HOH and veto and making the right noms and getting into an alliance, it was a huge week for Terence. And I would have given him a boost of like good gameplay this week, Terence. And then I'm going to bring you right back down to a 5 or a 4 next week because you still can't win the game probably. But things changed. Probably. And here's the thing. The range, the maximum, yes, is a 6. The minimum is a 1. And the minimum is a 1 because if you are dumb enough to be tricked by a person with a megaphone outside the wall of the house into doing something that is bad for your game, then you deserve a 1 in the game. That is the worst thing that you could do. Why would you ever trust somebody who is outside of a wall who you don't even know who they are or what they're saying or why? Why would you ever trust, especially if the message ends with save Joseph? Like, do you think they have an agenda? What are you playing here?
I'd be honest, I would probably believe them. Like, if I was in the house, like, I absolutely would be like, oh my God, Kyle's a liar. I'm trusting them. Like, there's no way. But yeah.
So if he believed a wall yeller nominated Kyle and intended to evict Kyle only to almost definitely get evicted next week, I would be giving him a 1. But I don't know that that's happening either. So it's got to fall somewhere in between. Now, if Kyle's on his way out and Terence is he'd probably have to break a tie to make that happen. Then okay, I'm going with at least like a 1 or a 2, but I don't know that that's happening. If Kyle's not on his way out, if Terence is still considering keeping Kyle, or maybe Kyle's just staying against Terence's will. If Kyle, say Turner and Alyssa kept Kyle, even though Terence didn't want that to happen, then I'd give him a 2 because it's an okay outcome, but he didn't co-sign it. If he was willing to break a tie to keep Kyle, I'd maybe give him like a 3 or a 4, depending on the circumstances, because why even put Kyle up on the block in the first place? It's a silly thing to do. Maybe he has good reasons, but I haven't heard them yet because I don't know. So ultimately, I have to come down to a 3 for Terence. On the low end of the splitting of the 1 and the 6 here, just because, I can't come up with a good reason to put Kyle on the block. Maybe he has one, and maybe I'll regret my 3 because he should have been higher, but I can't figure one out. And it's probably just because he heard somebody outside the wall yell a thing. And that's a pretty dumb reason to do it.
It evens out my 5. So I'm happy with him having a 4. That's totally fine by me.
All right. Well, there you go. That's Terence. Let's talk about Turner. How do we feel about Turner? We'll start with you, Chantele.
I know this is a hard one because, I really like Turner, but I just haven't really seen what's going on outside to be able to understand what his gameplay is. Is he just saying yes? He should have been really trying to keep both him and Joseph in the game, and it seems like he didn't even try to do that. But maybe we didn't see it. I'm not sure, and so I'm wondering if Turner just kind of goes with whomever is convenient for him, and he's not necessarily but that's not true. He was willing to stand up for Taylor. I don't know. He's definitely going to have to go down from last week because, as far as we know, he's still on he was nominated by somebody that he was supposed to be in good with. If he's taken off, that's better. He could still win the game. I think I'm going to agree with my ratings for Terence with him, and I think I'm giving him a 5 as well. He's kind of middle of the road for me right now. He can do better, absolutely, depending on how this week goes and goes back inside. He might be able to reposition himself and get into the good position that he was in before, but I'm not sure if he'll actually do that. So I'll give him a 5, even because I like him and I have high hopes for him.
All right, 5 from Chantele. The audience went with a 6 for Turner. A little bit higher on Turner from the audience. I'm also not super high on Turner, again, because I don't know if Kyle is staying. I actually really ended up liking his position after Terence won the veto, and it seemed like, again, Terence wasn't going to use it, and that Turner was willing to cast his lot in with that 4. I thought that was a really good 4 for Turner because I did think that the shot would get fired at both Kyle and Alyssa before it would land on Turner. And then if that shot even was taken at all, he could have always just immediately run back and said, hey, loyalty, remember? And then maybe even they take a shot at Terence before they take the shot at Turner. And that's all really good. So that would have been fine. And then if Kyle wins, then like, yeah, I'm with this crew. By Monty. He would have been in a good spot. It would have been exactly where Turner needs to be, given that he's not a very active player. But I don't know if Kyle is staying. And I don't know that even if Kyle did stay, that group is going to be cohesive anymore. So that's concerning. Which means that Turner's only real option is to go back to the other side, and nobody on the other side really has all that much of an interest in working with him anymore. They are kind of like, I don't know if we can trust him. He doesn't really talk much except to back up Kyle. So Kyle's on the outs. By Turner. His best chance if Kyle leaves is that Joseph and Monty say, hey, pound is still a thing, and he gets a little bit of coverage there. So he's not like out of it yet by any means. But because I don't know where this is going, I also feel like Turner's game right now is very much in flux, and his path to the end is definitely looking a lot murkier than it has been in the last few weeks. So I'm also going to go with a 5 for Turner. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely love Turner. And so like, I don't love how this week has turned out for him. It's not great. I mean, he was picked first by Terence, and Terence was like, he's my boy, blah, blah, blah. And he had the ear of the HOH, and yet he ended up on the block and didn't get anything to go his way. Like, he just totally gave up like any sort of power he could have had with Terence. And it's really not great. He lets Kyle take the reins. I wish that, he had kind of gotten into Terence's ear right away and been like, look, like, we need to do XYZ, like get rid of the showmance or whatever, or something to make it so that way he was off the block, he was safe, and they were working together. And, I don't know, I guess like he can't really defend against something he doesn't know is happening. So the idea of like Kyle telling Terence secretly about their alliance, like obviously he can't really like do anything about that. But once Kyle, Turner recognizes that that's going on or that something's up, like you would think that he would do something, like try and make some sort of move. And I'm just like not seeing it happen. So I'm a little disappointed in Turner this week. I think there's still like a shot for him moving forward. Like, I don't think he's totally out of it by any means, but I think it's going to be a lot trickier, especially because the inside people are bonding and he's kind of being left on the outs, outside. So yeah, not so great. But I still, have hope for him. So I am going to give him a 6.
Ooh.
All right, there you go. A 6 for Turner. Let's move on then to Alyssa. Let's talk about Alyssa. Where does Alyssa stand in all of this? We will start with the audience, who gave Alyssa a 4 this week. A 4 from the audience. And man, this is another one that's just
Very
like
hard.
so utterly dependent on what happened this week. Obviously, losing Kyle is pretty bad for Alyssa. Granted, she does have some outs here. One of which is that Michael and Brittany should be looking to pull her in, which is good. In addition to that, if Kyle does stay, Kyle should be the target over her, assuming he doesn't win the veto, and that's only if they lose in the first place. So, I mean, overall, this was a really great week for Alyssa. Really, I mean, even if Kyle does leave, it's still better than being evicted, making it to final 8. If Kyle does leave, though, it does put her in a bad spot. Of course, she's probably going to be out in the next week or two, unless, Michael and Brittany are able to start doing some things. But again, it's really like she has some paths, like both ways that this goes. She has some options. It's just not a lot of options. It's just not like super great here. So ultimately, I have to agree with the audience with the 4. I think that it's certainly up from the 2 last week. I think this week was good. If Kyle stays, maybe it could have gone even higher. But given that I don't really know where things are going right now, it's going to be at about a 4 for now until we get more information. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think, the fact that she's not going home is great for her because, that was the plan until Kyle got involved. And if she had been put with anyone else, that would have been probably her going home. So, um, also, she knows now a lot more information about the house. And, if Kyle stays, well, first of all, she knows who to work with. So even if Kyle doesn't stay, she knows more about the house. Hopefully she'll use that information to be able to figure out like, okay, I need to get in with, this person or that person or whatever, and try and find a spot to move forward. And, I don't know if she'll do that. I haven't really seen any indication that she can do that, but I do hope that she can. Because I think that like, I think once the house gets back together, I think that she could use this information and make some big moves, but I don't know. So, yeah, at this point, because this week has gone fairly well for her, even if Kyle goes home, the fact that she has this more information is good for her. So, I'm going to give her a 4 as well.
All right. I think we finally have official confirmation. Turner is off the block. And Kyle, I assume, is up on the block. But Turner, we know, has now said, I am off the block, is what we expected. It's how I've been doing the rating so far. So no change in terms of my perspective. It's, again, for me, going to come down to who leaves, which may be in the works in terms of a conversation between Turner and Alyssa. We'll see. But in the meantime, Chantele, how do you feel about Alyssa?
I mean, it's pretty cool that she has somebody that's fighting to save her in this game. And so, all the work that Kyle put in really was to save her, or himself as well. But like he's been putting some work in and giving her some more information and treating her like an ally, which is good for her. The fact that she has a connection with Terence, I didn't really see it coming, but he wasn't really willing to put her in jeopardy. I think that has to show that she's done a little bit of work that I hadn't really been giving her any credit for. And so I do think that if Kyle leaves, like, yes, it would be bad for a game because you want to have somebody that's a loyal ally, but I think that she could actually do better without him because they're lumping her together with Kyle, and they might want to take out take out Alyssa to weaken Kyle. And so I think that Alyssa, she could actually maybe do better, but I don't know if I have faith in that yet. So I'm agreeing with you guys and the audience. I think that a 4 is a perfect spot for her. I do think that with Kyle gone, maybe she'll be able to play better because she'll be less distracted for 10 seconds at a time. But, up until then, she gets a 4.
All right. Well, let's move on then to
God.
Kyle. Who is probably the most difficult person to rate here overall. Primarily because, first of all, I think that he did some seriously impressive work this week to ensure that he did not end up on the block in the first place, dropping the info to Alyssa and Terence in such a way that he did not take any heat for it. Terence was very appreciative of it, and had really even set some things up where he shouldn't have really even gotten in trouble for dropping the info because he was going to have Turner tell Terence about it. So, I was prepared to give him a big boost because of that. Now, he was still in some trouble heading back into the house because Michael and Brittany were not going to be with him like he thought they would. But he was even starting to try to account for that and at least try to go into the house in a 4-4 split, which wouldn't have been that terrible for him. So some very good stuff from Kyle. And I can only assume that his current position is due to no fault of his own, and instead due to a megaphone. So not gonna be very hard on the sort of like decisions made this week. I think he played it very well. That said, there were always going to be some long-term and short-term downfalls. One is that this is an alliance that cared a lot about loyalty, and I don't know how these moves were going to impact his ultimate jury potential. And then second, I do think he's in a lot of danger heading into next week, even if he does survive this week. Because if Brittany or Taylor or Monty won the HOH, I think he would be the target. And I don't know for sure where Turner would have fallen with everything. So even without the wall yeller, his rating would have been muted because of his overall position. And we talked a lot about this in the beginning of the week, that I felt like what he was doing this week was very impressive, but only in the sense that he was already falling off a cliff because of all of the mistakes he made prior. So keep all of that in mind and add on top of it the fact that we now have a pretty good idea that Kyle is in fact on the block and could very well be going home this week. I don't know if he is, but it's certainly possible. And again, even if he does survive, he's still in all that danger that he would have been in. And on top of that, probably in a worse position, because given the fact that Terence put him on the block, he's probably not as locked in with Terence and maybe even Turner as he otherwise would have been. So that group of four heading into the other side, not as solid. And he needs Michael and Brittany more than ever. And Michael and Brittany more than ever are still not with him. So it's so tough. There are still scenarios where we learn Kyle is lock safe. Turner and Brittany and Terence are all still perfectly willing to keep him. They're all still locked in as a 4. They're all still going to move into the house together on a team. And that's not the worst thing in the world for Kyle. But I don't know that that's happening. And it seems unlikely given the fact that he went on the block. So,
I know. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm
I have an
to hear
idea.
what you're going to do. So
I have an idea.
I think that I have to go with a 3 for Kyle. It is too likely that he is the target. I don't understand why you would put him on the block unless you intended to send him home. So I have to assume that he has a very good chance of going home. And the only reason he's not lower is because he did put in some good work to get here. And it was the wall yeller that put him in this position. So it's going to be a 3, but I don't think I've ever felt worse about a rating in terms of like where it should actually stand. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is really hard. And I've been pretty torn all week about like whether this was a good move on Kyle's part or not to reveal the leftovers stuff. I feel like I appreciate it from a entertainment gaming perspective where you're just like, yeah, he's willing to just like throw it all out there and he's not just like blindly marching loyally, to the end where he's going to get like 3rd place or 5th place or whatever. Like, I do appreciate that he's like, I'm going for it and I'm very self-interested and I'm going to do what needs to be done in order to keep myself off the block. And I feel like he's played a very self-interested game this whole time, which I feel like I definitely can appreciate. However, I think if this were the final 5 scenario, I absolutely would have been like, amazing move. Great job. You have these 5 people left. It's between you and, your alliance or your showmance. Like, you've got to make a move. You have to reveal something, blah, blah, blah. However, this is a fake final 5. It's not a final 5. He still has to contend with all the other leftovers still left in the house who are still loyally working together to get Jasmine out. And so him coming back, say he stays, he comes back to the other side. It gets revealed that he betrayed the leftovers and revealed all this information to keep his showman safe. I mean, they're absolutely going to target him next. He's not going to stay in the game long. And even if he does stay in the game long, let's say he wins veto after veto, I feel like he loses a lot of jury votes because he wasn't, there's possible he gained some as well because people respect the gameplay and all that. But I also think that there's a chance that he loses out on a ton of jury votes because of this. So I think that either way, the timing of this wasn't right. I feel like the thought process was correct, but the timing of it was wrong. And not to mention the fact that now it seems like he's on the block again. So I don't even know if any of it was right. It's possible that, this information doesn't mean that he's no longer like that Terence now is against him and he's putting him on the block because he wants him out. It could just be like, strategy. Like we talked about earlier, maybe there was some sort of like communication of like, let's put him on the block so that it looks like he wasn't betraying anyone. I don't know. And I thought that the idea of having Turner be a like part of this reveal was good for Kyle. But it does kind of seem like, I mean, I don't know exactly how everything went down, obviously, but like, it doesn't seem like it all worked out according to Kyle's plan. So yeah. And I tweeted this out earlier. Like, I do think that like, if Joseph were to go home this week, maybe Kyle wins this battle, but I think he ultimately loses the war, which is the game. I think that like, I don't see him necessarily winning the game after making this move. While it's great for this specific moment in time, I don't think it's good for him moving forward. So long-winded way of saying, I guess, that I don't think that this move is great for him. I think that he's going into next week in a very dangerous position. He will be a huge target, especially if it's him and Alyssa still in the house. That's a showmance. It's an easy, you put them both on the block, you get them out. And if people are already aware that Kyle's probably not loyal to the leftovers, like that is an easy way, like an easy excuse to just get him out. So I think I'm going to go with a 4.
A 4 for Kyle. All right, Chantele.
4. So, I agree with everything that both of you guys have said. And the one thing that I'm thinking, though, is that Kyle is not the best, like when confronted or when asked about certain things. And I would have to imagine if people heard a wall yeller, they are going to confront him and be like, oh, if they said Kyle is a liar, like, what do they mean by that? And that he may not have been able to explain what he said in a way that was convincing. Because that's the only thing that makes sense for me. Like, I just don't think that Terence is hearing a wall yeller and just like changing the votes without having conversations, especially with Kyle. And I think that he didn't get himself out of this sticky situation. And that's because I don't really have that much faith in him being able to be confronted by anybody with his game or with his actions in the game. And that also would, if he was in the final 2, I think that if the jury starts asking him some questions, I don't think that he's going to be able to speak for his game and speak well enough for them to be willing to give him their votes. And so I could not go as high as you, Melissa. I'm going to agree with Taran here. I think that a 3 is good for him. Like, yes, we saw him being able to kind of do a little fancy footwork, keep him and his showmans off the block initially. But I know we don't have all the information, but he didn't seem to do enough to be able to keep himself off the block. And so was all that work worth it? Because even if he does say, it's not going to pan out for him later on. So yeah, 3 for me for Kyle.
All right. Well, the audience, bit higher on Kyle. I think news has been worse throughout the day for Kyle in general, but the audience is at a 5 for Kyle.
Tense.
We'll see.
5? That's pretty high.
You have to imagine a good portion of these people voted earlier
Like
this
Reddit
morning
Yeah, like,
when,
didn't know.
BB Gossip came in at some point to really like extra confirm that this was probably happening. And then even then, maybe people didn't know. And of course, we didn't get confirmation until after the ratings were closed. So, I'm sure that part of this is from just the fact that he might not have even been on the block. And, maybe part of it was from some other things as well. So let's move on to Joseph. Let's talk Joseph. Melissa, what are your thoughts on Joseph?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
He's the hardest.
I don't know. I feel like I don't think he played this week well. I'll tell you that because obviously, I mean, but what else could he have done? Like, he was put in an impossible position where it's like Terence already went into the week being like, yeah, I want to target Joseph. So like, he was already the target to begin with. I don't know what he could have necessarily said to Terence to, make sure he wasn't the target. I did just see that currently Joseph is talking to Terence.
Yeah.
Saying that, go ahead.
Not to interrupt. So what I'm seeing is that Joseph is currently what appears to be pitching to Terence in a way that this might be too speculative to even mention, but in a way that seems to imply to me that there is still reason to be pitching right now, meaning that that he does at the very least does not have assurance from Terence that he will be staying at this time. So don't know if that means anything. Again, I'm reading right now. It could be very, very off in terms of that interpretation, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I feel like I think he's doing a decent job of this pitch from what I'm seeing, saying that a debt will be repaid. If you keep me, I'll make sure you stay next week and that sort of thing. Like, I get that's good. But at the same time, like, we don't know what's happened between when Kyle revealed the leftovers to now. If more information was given, it looked like Joseph was possibly in on a conversation where the leftovers was being talked about with Terence, but we don't know. And so, like, that would affect my rating, because if Joseph is unaware that Kyle revealed the leftovers to Terence, like, he has no ammo to really go after Kyle. And at this point, it would seem, if Joseph hasn't told Terence about the leftovers or talked about the leftovers with Terence, it would seem to Terence that Kyle's the more trustworthy person, because Kyle has revealed this stuff, and he'd want to work with Kyle moving forward and would want to make sure Kyle stays. So, like, it's hard for me to know exactly what's going to happen here. I think this is not a great week for Joseph. And it does seem like the odds are he's probably going to go home, which is obviously not good for his game. And I also think the fact that, like, I think moving forward, he's also a target just because he's who he is and he's strong, and they, see him as a threat. And so I could see him going home even next week if he stays. So I really don't know. I really don't know. Oh God, I really don't know. I guess, like, I feel like maybe like a 3. I don't know. Maybe a 3.
So are you is that your final answer?
I feel like, okay, so I feel like I feel like he's lower than Kyle, because I do think Kyle has a better chance of staying. You guys gave Kyle a lower rating than I did. So, like, it might seem odd when, like, you guys bring in your ratings. But to me, if Kyle's a 4, then Joseph's a 3.
All right, Chantele, what do you think?
I want to be giving Joseph a much higher rating. Absolutely. And I haven't obviously seen what he's pitching right now. And, like, is he just ensuring things with Terence to make sure that, like, hey, like, if you do keep me, this is what we have together moving forward. Like, I'm not sure what his pitch is right now. And so,
so I can try and give a and again,
context?
this is still very, very little. From what I'm reading, I'm seeing multiple people saying the same thing, which is their read on it is that Terence does
He's
not
desperate?
seem very invested in this conversation with Joseph,
Oh boy.
and that Joseph is kind of pitching for his life. Again, who knows? But to me, if Terence was planning to keep Joseph and that's why he used the veto, I don't know why this conversation would be taking place on Tuesday. But maybe he's undecided. Who knows?
Or maybe he wants to get more information out of people, so put them up just so they'll start talking. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, what this is definitively not, as far as I can tell, is Terence and Joseph being like, we got him. Like, the plan worked.
Yeah.
So we got him on the block.
Yeah.
Like, this is a pitch.
Well, one thing that's good though for Turner, that he has an out now. There's more of a chance of him staying. He knows it's most likely going to be a split vote, and that Terence is the person that would be the one that would have to keep him. But he's in this position. He could very, very, very easily go home. I don't think I could be as high as you, Melissa. As much as I enjoy Joseph, I want, Tay Joe to get back together and, live happily after in the big house. But I have to give him a 2. I think that he could go home. He could talk himself into going home. I don't feel confident in him staying. And so I'm going to have to go down from the 3 that I gave Kyle to a 2 for Joseph.
All right. Well, the audience is a little bit higher on Joseph. They gave him a 4 this week.
That's still a noon, like at noon he was getting a 4.
Yeah, maybe it would have been lower. I'm still like watching the information come in, hoping that I'll get something.
That you'll get some measly morsel of information
Before you
could
give your
affect
rating.
that could affect your
Because
ratings.
one of the main things I'm looking for too, because like it feels to me like we're guaranteed at this point that Turner has that Terence has definitely not told Joseph, "I'm keeping you," which is bad news for Joseph, because I do think that he needs Terence, and I don't see any reason for Terence to not tell Joseph that he's keeping him, especially when Terence was planning to evict Joseph, he was telling him, "Don't worry, I'm keeping you." So the fact that this apparently hasn't been said is very damning information in my eyes so far. In addition to that, I'm looking for, like, do we know if Turner is definitely on board? It's hard to know because I'm not listening myself. I've seen some people say, like, it seems like Joseph is saying, "I've got Turner, I just need you." And it also seems like some people are saying, "Don't worry, I'll talk to Turner and make sure I've got Turner," which is a different thing. So I don't know. I don't know.
People are asking, like, well, what was the point of taking or putting Kyle or taking Turner off the block, if your intention wasn't to get rid of Kyle? And I get that. I'm wondering if maybe there was like some conversation between Turner and Terence where basically he was like indicating that it was just like a ruse, like putting Turner up on the block and like trying to keep, like, Terence trying to keep Turner close by being like, "Oh, I'm taking you down because like it wasn't my intent to like have you leave this week, or like I want to show you," or like, like trying to just like gain some loyalty with Turner versus like trying to go against Kyle or something by putting Kyle on the block, or I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah. Okay. So
see, Terence stalling now because
actually,
he's waiting,
maybe
he's waiting for Terence to be like, "I'm keeping you." We did.
But it also could allow for Terence to be able to get to be able to make the decision this week. So maybe he took Turner off so that he could be like, "Hey, Turner, no matter what, will you vote the way that I want him to vote, and so want you to vote?" And so maybe that just allowing him to have definitive power without necessarily being the one that's breaking the tie, maybe could be a reason why Terence did it. I mean, it's a bit convoluted, but
yeah. I don't know. If I had confirmation that Joseph was leaving, I'd very comfortably give him a 2. But I don't. And so I don't think that Joseph played this week as well as Kyle, or even close, really. I think that obviously, he was in the position where he was probably leaving without the wall yeller. And that's not great. However, Joseph's overall position has been better than Kyle's for the last week or so. And so the situation that I'm finding myself in when it comes to rating them is that if Kyle stays, he's still not in a great place, probably. Not sure, but probably. Whereas if Joseph stays, he's in a pretty great place. He goes to the other side. They accept him with open arms, except for Michael and Brittany, but that's a different thing. So, given that, I advantage Joseph. In terms of like gameplay this week, advantage Kyle. In terms of like who do I think is going to stay this week based on what I've seen so far, right now it seems like it's going advantage Kyle. But I don't know for sure. I'm just going to give him the same rating. I'm going to give him 3. I'm going to go with a 3 for Joseph. Because there's just too much that I don't know yet. But I do like his position if he does stay. So this is perhaps another opportunity for some profit to be made. All right. Those are the ratings.
Wow. I feel so
that was
like
tough.
Oh, I feel bad, that people I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry about these ratings," but I just don't really know.
It was
Especially
so much worse than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I thought it would be bad. I didn't realize it would be like, oh, we're on the cusp of the information.
Yeah, the feeds come right back on. Yeah.
I thought it'd be bad, but it'd be like we're all gonna sit in this bad, stew of ratings all together for the next 3 days. Or whatever, 2 days.
It's
but
literally going to be, we find out tonight after like the podcast ends, like who's going home, and then everyone who watches this late tomorrow, and it's
like,
be like,
they don't know anything.
These guys are idiots. Yeah.
Worst
wow,
case.
these ratings are terrible.
I can't believe I lost money this week.
Yeah, exactly. My money, my
Yeah.
stocks.
Yeah.
Whatever. I already lost a bunch of my stocks. It's fine. It's over for me.
Yeah.
I thought you were on the up right now.
I was on the up last week, but then I forgot to do anything, and so I kept it in Turner, and now I'm on the down.
Oh
Ooh.
no!
So yeah, I was doing pretty well last week.
Would you have moved it?
First of all, I was doing pretty well when we weren't able to get on during the podcast, so no one saw that I was doing well.
Sure, you were.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're like,
Melissa
"You're doing
did.
really well."
She went up like 1,000 ratings or something.
Yeah, 1,000 places. I literally like jumped 1,000 places, but the podcast had ended at that point, and so we were just talking off the podcast, and then I was just like, nobody can see my progress, and now of course back down.
All right, hold on. We can show your last week's progress here.
Okay.
This was last week for Melissa, up 954 places.
Pretty good.
I still don't know what's happening this week.
We don't need to look this week. We don't need to know.
Hasn't
Just know that
updated
it's
yet.
bad. Although maybe everyone else did poorly too, so maybe it's all relative.
Oh, here we go. We got an update. Yeah, down 570.
Ugh. Although, not down as much as I went up last week, so it's still fine. Maybe not great.
Yeah. Well, let's see if I can get an updated leaderboard. The problem is that if I pull it up too early, then everyone goes to the site and it gets a little slow. There we go. Oh, I guess this is the updated.
Yeah.
version.
So Brittany, right? That's Brittany.
Yeah, Brittany with the best buy, I think makes some sense. She stayed at the 7. Eastnick here at the top. I believe Eastnick had pulled into first place last week and is going to maintain that position with their position on Brittany here. I held this week, didn't do anything. Wow. Moved down 62 spots on the leaderboard. That was a rough week for me. Yeah. Decided to play it safe. What are you going to do? Melissa went down. Looks like Chantele.
I might be going. I'm slowly creeping up from that week.
Massive
with my buy.
Wow,
this was a massive week for you. And on Brittany, moved up 970 places.
That's
that's a lot.
Yeah,
you are now just behind Melissa. She's 1,500. You're 1,650.
That 1 week with Nicole, she killed my week. I was like, I'm just gonna be doing well. Yeah, I'll put it all in Nicole, and then I basically lost half my money.
Oh,
and so I've just been building up since then. So
yeah, you have one bad week, and it's like a slow climb. It's very hard. I'm not good at it. Clearly, I also just forget about it all the time. It's like I only remember every other week, so it's not good. It's really not good for me.
All right. Well, I'm surprised at how many people at the top of the leaderboard went in here, but they really did. And Brittany made a lot of money here this week, so some big gains. All right. Let's then let's conclude this disaster of a podcast.
Yeah, literally. This was hard.
Any final thoughts on the week, Chantele?
I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing what is going on. I'm actually probably going to tune into the feeds after we get off this pod so I can figure out what's happening. And so if that was their intention to get me interested as to what's going to be going on, I guess then that worked. I mean, I had higher hopes for this twist last week. I was like, okay, this could be pretty interesting. It hasn't been. So I kind of just want the week to be over and I wanted to just kind of get back to normal and okay, let's see how the fallout's going to be because it was a little bit of a dud in my opinion. But the season on a whole for myself, I think it's still going pretty well. I still like the game. I still like the season. So I'm happy. I just want this twist to be done and the game to go back to normal so I can just play properly or watch this game properly.
Yes. All right. Melissa, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I can't wait for this week to be over so we can just move on because this has been too terrible. So yeah, looking forward to having the house back to normal so we can actually have some fun, exciting gameplay and feeds.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you. Still no solid answers on who might be leaving this week, but I can tell you that tomorrow morning, hopefully, I'll have some kind of answer for you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. At the very least, perhaps have an idea of where things are leaning. If they are still up in the air, we'll know something, hopefully. So tune in tomorrow morning. And of course, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will have another episode. The Wednesday episode, we'll see how they butcher the events of the last few days to explain what the hell happened. I'll be live on Twitch watching that with all of you. If you want to see my live reactions to that, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. You can also find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. If you want to find the link to this survey on Tuesdays or whatever else that I am doing. I'm also going to have an Among Us video coming up tomorrow. So a new one, should be a fun one. Make sure you check it out on my YouTube channel. And I've got the House of the Dragon post-show recaps podcast. I'll be on weekly, so you can check that out as well if you want to hear my takes as a book reader of House of the Dragon. Chantele, what are you up to?
I'm just hanging out on my channel, Reality Realness with 3 S's over on YouTube. And if you want to find me on social media, at ShanFranFran on Instagram has all my socials. So I'm pretty findable. So come hang out.
All right. And you can, of course, find Melissa at It's Melissa with 3 A's. Not 2, but 3 A's. So make sure you find Melissa there. And of course, tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, we will be talking with Brittany from last season live for the patrons, and then it will be released to everyone else after the fact if you want to get some of Brittany's takes. So check that out. Thank you all so much for joining us here tonight, and we will see all of you next time.